April 22nd, City of Colleyville Planning and Zoning Commission work session. I will call roll. Susan Mathieson, I'm here. Ryan Moore.
Here.
Kimberly Hull. Here. Kimberly, pardon me. Matt Cook.
Here.
Claudia Bevel is absent. And Jason Holmes.
Here.
Very good. We have 6 items tonight. Some of these things are follow-ups on things we've seen in the past. I think this one was tabled, this first item was tabled from our last 2 meetings ago, right? Because I wasn't here at the last meeting.
I think it was our last meeting.
The one before, yeah, I actually missed the last full meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Had
I
a,
remember now. Yeah.
Yes, I had a water heater explode in the middle of my home.
They all run together for me.
Water heaters or?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Okay, we're gonna run through this one real fast. This is for 7504 Pleasant Run Road, requesting a specific use permit for oil and gas extraction, specifically for a change in ownership of the existing gas well site. And there's the zoning map, the aerial map, and the site plan that they gave to us. Zoning exhibit. This is the SUP ordinance language. And at this time, back to there, staff has been in contact with them, but we have not received any up-to-date information to this meeting. But we do have them on the schedule for May 13th.
Okay.
So that's the P and Z meeting?
That is our next P&Z meeting.
And help me remember, there was an issue with a letter that had been distributed by the then city engineer about an access and some promises made, and we were going to look into that. And then there was other questions, a lot of questions. Susan read through a list of questions that their representative could not answer. So, do we have any feeling? I'm like, it's been silence on the other end, or?
No.
And have we
Okay.
been able to locate that letter that was referenced in our last meeting?
I know that we can find that letter, but all the information, I am now in contact with someone from Sage Natural Resources from their main office in Tulsa, and so he actually came in, flew in, and I had a meeting with him. He's also watched the meeting, so he knows what the questions are, and so he's working through that out, working through all of that. Just early last week, so about a week ago, I emailed him as far as the dates, whether we'd be ready for May or possibly do we need to push it to June. After rearranging his schedule, he said, I can be there for May. And so as far as I know, he's putting that information together. I expect to see that probably either late this week or early next week. I'll follow up with him again, I guess tomorrow, just to see where he's at, and we'll do everything we can to be ready to answer all those questions.
Good. Yeah, I mean, the main thing is really on this is the SUP, is it ordinance that's currently in effect, is that being adhered to 100%? And if there are
Right.
any deviations, what are they? So, thank you.
That was quick.
Yeah, I was
I thought you were soft playing it a little bit, but that was quick.
Yeah, I was expecting, wasn't that what I was expecting?
Okay, our next case is for a preliminary plat for the Oak Alley subdivision at 1312 John McCain Road. And it's this piece of property here. It has the PUDR zoning that was obtained February 19th of 2019. And the commission had seen the several iterations of that subdivision. What they're going to do now is they're coming in with, this is the approved zoning exhibit with the ordinance number. They are requesting to preliminary plat the subdivision for 34 single-family lots. So 32 of those lots are going to be 30,000 square feet. And then lots 1 and 3 will be 26,000 square feet. And it is a private gated subdivision. The access is off of John McCain Road. And the preliminary plat allows them to put in the streets. And after which, then they would come back, and then they would final plat the subdivision. Let me go through some of these slides. That's the plat over the aerial, just to kind of show you what it will look like.
Just one question real quick
Sure.
before you, is it fair to say that that this matches the exhibit that was in the PD, the PU, does it match pretty much exactly?
Yes,
Okay,
it
just-
does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
If I can add to that, the city council actually was, they requested that they had a plat exhibit as part of the zoning. And so it's basically
that
that
same
exhibit.
thing? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
And these are just civil plans that go along with that.
Can you remind me, did we, I think I can see it here now, but the home, there was an agreement to turn, angle one of the lots, one or two of the lots, in sort of a cul-de-sac towards the front of the development?
Those are these right up here,
Okay,
right there.
that's what okay, this one. And what are
Those
those?
are the two 26,000 square foot lots.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, I went really fast today.
We've seen this a few times.
Wow. Well,
I think the only thing that changed that I see, it doesn't affect the plat per se, but that pond is gone now?
the one that was, let's go back.
Is
You're
it
right, the one
retention
along
pond?
Holly Lane.
Yes.
It originally showed it, but at the end, it was determined that they'd rather you have more of a usable open space. And so they will be making some improvements in that area. I think a gazebo, also some trails and some park benches, but that was more of a desire rather than the pond.
Okay.
And so, basically, the preliminary plat will, we've got civil construction plans for the rest of the stuff. They'll construct it, and then once the city's accepted it, the final plat will come through. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I help you for 1 second? I totally did something where I totally lost the,
You lost everything. Oh dear.
I don't know
Why don't you use this one? I'll never use mine.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So giving.
What's that?
So giving.
Very nice.
Let us know if we need to.
Sharing is caring.
That's right.
My one good deed of the day.
Any, I mean, all of the easements that will be required, I mean, we've already identified all the easements
Yes.
because the construction drawings are in place. Okay.
So what, in this plat, in this stage, what was done different that we haven't seen in the past? What were any new additions?
Go back to the other exhibit. Easier to-
Just so I can make
We
sure.
removed the pond.
Yeah, I remember, okay.
They eliminated one lot here, so we're down to 34 lots instead of 35. There's, you can see the red dotted line, dashed line. That's all pedestrian access. There's even access off of Holly Lane, so there's easements for that there. There's also going to be some minimal off-site work for some drainage issues, but that's pretty minimal, and it's most of it's off-site. I think that's,
Yeah, there's
I
pretty
think
major
that's it.
drainage. Those properties flood on a regular basis.
Yeah, so the creek is right here.
Right.
And so there's a lot of flood plain. You can see the green dashed line here is the floodplain limits. Yeah, some of the water backs up into this natural bowl up here, so they're gonna rework some of that to try and get it into the creek faster.
Even though it's not part of the property per se?
Right, there were some agreements that were made.
Good,
I think that's really it.
that's it,
It's
okay,
fairly minor.
okay.
Yeah, no-
I mean, that's what it sounds like, but I just want to make sure because
Yeah.
It
this
look-
is,
It looks like ones of the widths of the artery streets are 50 feet? What are the ones, the main ones coming in?
These right
The
here,
actual gully ones, yeah.
31 foot right of way for each of these? 31 4?
The pavement is 24 feet on each side.
Okay, yeah. And there's a little bit more for right of way, and then these green are just open space lots.
Are they one way?
Yes, so it'll be one way in and one way that way too.
Okay, I was wondering, 24 feet. Yeah,
I mean, that does allow for two-way traffic, but I think they're gonna do one way, a true boulevard type design.
good.
Is that correct though, for sure, one way? Just curious.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna be private streets.
So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing.
Really,
If they're gonna do one way, they would have to put signs up to say one way.
The most important thing is it provides the right fire protection. It's got the two 24-foot aisles, so it's got
Correct.
secondary access. That's the critical thing. But yeah, it's a long time coming, but it looks good. Looks real good.
Do you have a question too, or?
Well, I was just kind of, so the original house is on the large piece of land there.
Yes, and that will stay.
What if they sold it? Could it then be divided up?
Not without amending the zoning.
Okay.
So this plan is an attachment that was included with the PUD zoning.
Okay.
So any amendment to this plan will require
Go
city
back
council
through that.
approval.
Okay.
First to you guys for recommendation and then to city council.
Sure.
So it will be a zoning change.
That's a
How
good
many
question.
acres is that piece of land?
Just this lot?
Uh-huh.
I think
3
it's-
point something,
Yeah,
There's
3.2, because I
3.6
remember
or
doing
something like that.
math calculations on this.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so 34 lots and only 34 lots and really matching this plan and only this plan.
Okay.
So, I mean, there might be some little minor adjustments for lot lines, but let's say they squeeze more lots here and open up lots there, that would also require change of zoning coming back to you guys and back to council.
Okay.
So it really should match this plan.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. Okay. Our next case is 5305 Miramar Lane. They are requesting a specific use permit for an accessory dwelling. This is the property located off of Miramar Lane between Miramar and Montclair. It's zoned R20. What they're requesting is this accessory dwelling building to allow them to use, it's basically a really nice pool house, and they really want to put a range, an oven in there. In order to do that, they have to request a specific use permit through the Land Development Code. This does meet all of the requirements for setbacks, lot coverage, all types of things. You can see the setbacks there. They're 26 inches away from the house, almost 12 feet away from the side property line, and then from the rear property line, almost 24 feet. So they meet all the setbacks, they meet all the things that would require any additional SUPs. And really, what you're looking at and considering is that stove oven issue for that accessory dwelling.
So the required setbacks from the rear of the property is 10 feet, correct?
Yes,
So they've exceeded.
yes, they have. And,
But isn't it always that by the installation of a range, it's considered a dwelling unit?
yes,
So we're considering whether we're going to, so what is the exact request? Is it it's an SUP to allow a stove, or is it to not consider it a dwelling unit?
to allow for an accessory dwelling.
Okay, so it is an accessory
Yes,
dwelling.
it's accessory
Yes,
dwelling.
yes. It reaches that point when they request for a stove or oven. It tips over to that, and the Land Development Code says if you want to do that, you need to ask for an SUP. Let me show you what it will look like. Those are the elevations, and what they've done is they're really trying to stay in the architectural character of the home that's there, and they're using the same types of materials, same types of dormer windows and things like that. So they're gonna have a little bit of a covered porch there, and just match architecturally what's there with the main home.
Are these separate rooms here? Like,
What
well,
you looking
I understand
at?
the bathroom.
Sure.
And then.
The bath, the living room, and the
living-
kitchen.
Yes, okay. Sorry, my eyes are really.
No, it's okay. It's hard to see sometimes. Keep going? Okay. Oh,
So, just back to the, so, is there, we've recently changed it, so there's
Yes.
not servants' quarters or whatever, mother, but is that typical on an R20 zoning to have, like, do we typically see accessory dwelling units in R20 zoning typically?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we see it across the board,
Okay.
yeah. And any accessory dwelling, except for in our agricultural district, I believe, maybe residential estate as well, requires a special use permit.
Like casitas or whatever. Casitas or.
Right. Casitas.
How many total square feet is this?
Under roof, it's 926. The actual space, usable space is 576. So it's gonna have a really nice tall ceiling.
Is there a what's the maximum accessory structure for R20 zone?
Well, it's
Isn't it
limited by
based on
lot.
the calculation? Yeah.
It's based on the lot size.
Right, so, yeah.
So it's 4%, and this lot is, I wrote this down.
It's 41,000, almost 42,000.
Okay, so it says it's R20, but it's a 1 acre lot, so they can go over 1750 or whatever that is.
Yeah, I think this probably used to be 2 lots
Okay,
that were replatted into 1,
okay,
why it has that acreage,
okay.
square footage.
I thought-
Is it 2 lots?
No, it's a single lot, but I think when it was originally platted, I think it was 2,
But now it's
they
official.
bought 2 and combined them into 1.
Okay, because that would change my perspective on this.
Questions?
That's it.
Okay.
Or wait, one more question.
One more question.
There's not a second floor to that? It's
No,
just
there
the
is
dormer
not.
windows
It's a
just for?
single story.
Okay,
Single story. I double checked on that too.
okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to 2308 Glade Road. They are requesting a zoning change from the current ag zoning to R40 to allow for a new single-family residential home there. It's located off of Glade Road, on the north side of Glade. And the plan is to demolish the current buildings that are out there and then build a new building. And the reason for the rezoning is because the ag zoning doesn't have the side setbacks. They need a little bit better side setbacks to accommodate the home they want to put on the lot, basically. We're showing that 17.5 acre piece of land right there, that strip. It's actually being used right now as a driveway, and at some point in time, that's going to come back as a replat. They're working right now to get the title information and all the information about it and have it replatted into this property right here. Right now, it's
Is it right away or?
no, it's a gore strip, right?
Yeah.
It's a leftover piece of land that was never claimed by this property or that property.
Is it like back to the general land office kind of, like never claimed?
I'm not sure how far back that goes,
Okay,
but it,
wow.
That's what they're trying to figure out
that's what they're
right
trying to
now.
figure out right now and research that.
So,
You don't find those much.
No, it's interesting.
in the meantime, we want to make sure it's included, so if they
Right.
work it out, that it's just unclaimed land, and they are able to claim it and replat it in, then it's already rezoned.
What is the total acreage of this lot?
It is,
It's under 3 acres, right?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
slightly under 3 acres.
So if it were to be zoned, or if they were to would try to plat it as currently, it would be a non-conforming plat lot anyway, right? Because in 3 acres, the minimum
That's right.
ag lot anyway.
Yes.
And this is showing 1.93 acres, so it's,
So they're getting, they're theoretically getting relief from the side setbacks, but ultimately, we would have to yield on something anyway because it doesn't meet the minimum as it's currently zoned.
well, I will say it is a platted lot.
Oh, it is currently a platted lot?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Lot 1, Block 1, J.M. Presley Edition.
So it doesn't have to be.
It does not have to, but with the 17.5 foot area
Okay.
and the desire for setbacks,
Would
a
this-
slight reduction in
Would
setbacks.
this property meet the qualifications and limitations, et cetera, for state classification versus R40? I don't remember what the acreage is.
Can look
versus-
that up real quick.
I don't remember.
I don't
The
remember.
residential state requires 80,000 square feet.
It would have that.
Mm-hmm.
It would have that with the
Let me check the
parcel
width.
2 added to it for sure. Because it would be right, I mean, 1.93 is right at 80.
I think that's something to consider.
I just went back to this too, just to show like zoning around there, just to get an idea of
Sure.
what's adjacent to it.
So R30 is next to it, R20. R30 is across the street, or across the lot.
So it would meet for the minimum lot width as well, just barely. Minimum is 200 feet, which it shows it's right at 200 feet. But the residential estate has the same side setbacks as the agricultural district, so there would be an issue.
What if they got a state with a variance for setbacks?
Or, I mean,
That's-
in that case, I mean, can you just give variances for the setbacks in ag and make it, I mean,
Well, the trend is really to, for properties that are currently ag to be converted to something different, so.
or something?
Or something. Or something.
RE, R4, R2, or
Well,
something?
So
yeah,
depends on the process.
okay.
If they determine that there is no need to replat, let's say that 17.5 foot area is not worth it, or maybe they aren't able to claim it, there would be no need to replat. You can do plat waivers for setbacks with a replat, but if they don't, the only way to get relief for those setbacks would be taking it through the variance process, which, depending on the variance, if it's a minor variance or a major variance, a minor variance would just go to the Board of Adjustment. A major variance would come through you guys, but ultimately, City Council would approve that.
I think it's something worth discussing with the applicant to see, what their thoughts are in terms of asking for a state with variance.
What are there's currently easements on the perimeter of this thing. I can't read it, obviously, but I don't, is it 10 feet, is it 15 feet? Because the question would be, what kind of side yard setback are they looking for? And is it, did the easements already preclude them from getting that? That's another question to ask.
Yes.
I mean, if they've got a 20-foot utility easement, they want a 10-foot side yard setback, it's not gonna work, no matter what they do.
So this is identifying the R40 setbacks, which has a 15-foot side setback.
Yeah, I guess the only thing, it appears that there's something that says UE and it's got a cabinet and file number, so I'm assuming that means that there's a utility easement around the perimeter of it, yeah.
So the closer line is the 6-foot utility
It's a
easement.
6-footer, okay. The second line,
And it's 6 foot along here.
Okay.
And this larger dashed line is what I'm saying is the 15-foot
Okay.
setback. That's what I think it's showing.
okay.
Does anyone else have questions on this one?
Are they gonna know the answer to the going to take action before they know the answer to whether that property is going to be part of their tract or not? Because then ultimately, it doesn't matter if it's included in the zoning case or not. Are we going to zone that
It
property?
does actually, because, yeah. I
Right,
would-
we've included it in this request because they've identified it. So just to be safe, we've included it in. If it truly does not exist, then we've already rezoned the lot that we've identified, Lot 1, Block 1, Presley Edition. And then in the future, if they decide not to claim it, and it does exist, it's just going to be a strip of 17.5 feet that has whatever zoning is assigned to it.
I was just thinking if the owner of the property weren't consenting to the zoning, if it really were the other neighbor who owned the property and then we're zoning this property. I'm just
Yeah.
assuming that we're not creating any kind of liability for ourselves.
I don't see any liability, really.
Okay.
Talking about the neighbor to the
Yeah, I
right,
mean, if it were my property, it's,
right?
you were zoning
And they're
it,
ag.
No, that one,
it's the city initiated
it
zoning.
is ag, but they also are a platted lot as well.
Okay,
So that's why it's interesting that there's this area in between.
okay.
So you have two platted lots,
Both
With-
ag.
both ag, but with 17.5 feet apparently in between them.
What'd you call it, a gore strip?
Gore strip.
That's the
What does that mean?
legal term.
Okay, I'll get that information.
It's just a void between two platted lots or two properties.
It's good to know.
Do they share that now, or who's maintaining it?
It appears that it's being maintained by this property.
Okay.
According to the surveyor, it just is not part of the platted
Yeah.
lot.
You said there's a driveway on it, right?
Go back to the aerial photo. Yeah, you
Uh-huh.
can see that.
Nobody told them they couldn't put it there.
So there.
It's cool.
So I'm trying to figure out where this is off of Glade.
Jim Mitchell right
Yeah.
here, and is it Patterson Lane?
Okay. Okay.
Pool is just up this way.
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Can you move on to the next one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. This is a request for a zoning change on Hall Johnson, 2001 Hall Johnson, to change from ag to R20, single-family residential district. This is the property currently as it is now. So there's a house here, building there, and then they would like to use this land, sell it off to be able to build a home there, another single-family residential home. There is this, I'll show you the plans here in a second, but there's an access here off of Hall Johnson that right now services both pieces of land. Currently, the case after this is a minor plat with a waiver, and I'll show you that. It's currently one platted lot.
Right now, it's actually two tracts of land.
It's 2 tracts of land, and they want to,
2 tracks that were not platted before, or?
Right.
2
Right.
tracks unplatted.
2 tracts unplatted, and that's the next case right after this, they kind of go together. So this is the piece of property, and you're asking for that straight rezoning from ag to R20. Just go back to here to show you the properties around it. Zoned R20, and then across the street is PDR, R20, and then ag to the east.
Are the two separate owners in the 2005 is completely separate from this, right?
Yes,
They're not
it's
really-
completely separate, yes. Go back to the plan.
So the total width of this tract, 130 feet, is it And then, so the access, how are we, I mean, so is it a permanent ingress and egress easement? I mean, it's, that lot on the south isn't gonna have access to a public road if they divide it, right? So it's only gonna be by an easement?
Jump
Go
ahead.
to the,
Let me
let's
jump
go to the
ahead.
plat
Yeah.
exhibit.
So you can see, okay.
Okay.
So what they're proposing with, we jumped ahead a little bit. What they're proposing is a common access easement here that will serve both pieces of land. There's some history, when this is, what's the name of that subdivision? It's the one,
Montclair?
when Montclair came in the early 90s, they platted, this extended all the way down here, and when they, I don't want to touch that screen, it'll do something, but when they basically platted that out. And so now, what they're trying to do, the proposal tonight is, with the minor plat, they're requesting that, the waiver for the street access, I'm gonna say this wrong.
Yeah, we have a requirement that all lots front on a public or private street.
Sure.
So the existing structures here, we were looking at where the property line would go and then the setbacks in relation to them. And by, well, let me back up also. We also have a regulation that we discourage the creation of flag lots or panhandle lots. So that was, the conversation was going back and forth, what would be the best situation, plat waiver for a flagged lot or possibly this scenario. I think this scenario works a little bit better because it reduces other potential plat waivers. Where the existing structures are here, by not having the flag lot or the panhandle area here, we can push this lot line up, which would then allow for all of these structures to meet the front building setback. But then that does require a common access easement so that this lot has access, and so that will be part of this plat. And that would allow essentially the access, although it doesn't have true frontage, it does have access to the public street.
And which public street is that? Glade?
Paul Johnson.
Paul Johnson.
What is the size of those lots? Like 22 and 24, what's that? 21, 181?
Yeah, 22 and 20, almost 25 for the
Yes.
bottom one.
So the northern lot, if you didn't, say if this were a common, or if this were a development, that would be right of way, let's say. The lot itself, the buildable area that's not part of, that doesn't have this access on it, how much area is that lot? Is that gonna fall below 20,000
Yeah,
feet?
so
I mean, that's,
what's left?
my concern is that we're really kind of creating a sub 20,000 square foot lot on the frontage here, because it's got so it just
A
help
forced
me,
easement.
help me with that.
Okay,
It's like
it appears based on this, you could tell where that notch is,
Right.
that the city has already taken out some right-of-way there.
Right.
And so, there are also, I don't know if that would come to pass, do you know what I mean?
Well,
He's asking about the common access area.
Common
yeah,
access
it's
area?
just,
So if-
I
would that
look
carve
at,
out
I
what's
look at it
left?
and say,
Okay.
if I'm selling this lot, or if I'm buying this
Okay.
lot, I've got not just a underground easement, but I've got a surface easement and impediment of the property that I can never remove, that I might not even know. I mean, honestly, miners sometimes don't dig real deep, but honestly, that's taking away at least 25 feet of a 120-foot lot. So my concerns are you're dipping below the minimum lot width and lot size if you were to consider that as anything. Now, if we just shade it green and call it an access easement and not think about that it's truly an encumbrance on the property that can never be built upon, then that's one thing, but we know it is. So it's kind of a concern.
Yeah, I mean,
So what's left
we
after
haven't
that?
made a recommendation yet, but
Interesting.
if you go back to the aerial photo, that currently is the driveway.
Sure.
And what that common access easement would require then is that both lots take access from that drive. Whereas if there was a flagged lot situation, then you could potentially have two driveways, and you wouldn't be able to control the access. So we're throwing this out for you guys to think about between now and our next meeting.
Gotcha.
But the reason for this scenario is it allows for, you can see where the structures are. We can move that lot line up, and we can meet the front setback for all structures. But I guess what you give up is you potentially could have a little bit smaller area after you take the easement away. But
So-
it's still, they do have that land. It is part of their land, and so they do meet the minimum lot area.
So then the back lot would not meet or would meet the setback
No.
requirements? As
It's
is.
so that the back lot does meet all
That's-
setbacks, based on where the existing structures are.
I mean, just as a rule, I don't like the idea of extending access next, especially, I look at 5705, and I think that's a really beautiful house that's sitting there with a really beautiful pool that's always had this tract of land next to it that's been ag, and now it's a two-lot subdivision, basically. I don't want to blow the horn here, I don't want to overblow it, but it's the situation where you put basically an access road right next to it.
Right.
$1,000,000-square-foot house, it just doesn't feel right, or $1 million house, not $1,000,000-square-foot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is something that I agree,
Kind of changes
it would change the character of that neighborhood.
Something to think about.
Are there any questions about the rezoning for this? Kind of jumped ahead
Well,
to
I
the
mean,
plating.
the question was, I mean, as he said, once you take out the easement, effectively, you take out the easement for that right-of-way, along the side, what's left on that north lot?
And I see it's a double-edged sword, whether it's a flag lot or an access easement, but ultimately, it's a skinny tract of land that's adjacent to some very nice houses,
Absolutely.
so.
So I think what Jackie was referring to with, so we do have two items. One is the rezoning,
And the plats.
and going to the R20, whether that's appropriate. The second would be with the plat. It does require a plat waiver for either of those scenarios. So if the plat waiver is not approved, then they would have to think about what they want to do with the property, but with the R20 zoning, it would still at least authorize a single lot.
Can I see again, please, the future land use zoning of this? There we go.
So I don't think we have a picture of the future land
Well,
use on
this is
there.
fine, this works. So I'm just curious, these, like, properties on Miramar Lane, even though they're zoned R20, I don't think they are. I
Well,
think
yeah,
they're
that's
much
their
bigger.
minimum zoning, but I
That's
mean,
right,
clearly that
clearly.
5705 is,
Far exceeds.
so that's why that was square lot.
I believe the others down the road
Probably,
are
like-
20,000 square feet.
Like 5608 probably, or 5613 probably is. That's minimum. I know 5710 is.
Right.
So is the, I mean, it's, the zoning case is the first issue, and then the plot is the second issue, so, okay. And I don't really have any questions,
That's all we have for this evening. Do you have any more questions?
I don't think so. Anyone have any more questions? Any more comments regarding any other? Okay, before we adjourn, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page regarding dates for future meetings, just so I don't schedule a vacation.
If I've already got one scheduled, it's done.
So our next meeting will be in 3 weeks from today. It's May 13th.
Okay.
Just based on the calendaring, the last days of this month are a Monday and a Tuesday, so it gives us an extra week. And then our next work session will be on May 27th. Oh, actually, no, it won't be the 27th.
I'm like, I think that may sound like I've committed to something
I
that day.
forgot, that's Memorial Day, so Tuesday the 28th.
Nothing better you wanna do, nothing better you wanna do after a 3-day weekend is
So,
talk about zoning.
May 13th and May 28th. With May 28th being a Tuesday.
All right, I'm glad that we,
And that's just a work session.
Correct.
Okay.
so,
Very good, Mark. She's gonna be absent that day.
yeah, so are you.
That's just a work
It's just a
session,
work
right?
session, right, so.
Is that okay with you
Yeah,
guys?
that's fine.
Ryan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, good. Any other questions or comments? Well, I'm gonna ask, I guess we'll find out soon enough, regarding
Vacancy?
the vacancy and how city council and when they're gonna address that, but until then,